As you begin to have your dinner this evening, we'll join you in just a few moments, is Nina Sachdev. Nina is the Communications Director at Media Impact Funders, a Philadelphia-based member-supported network of funders who seek to improve society through media and technology. She spent a decade as a journalist at the Dallas Morning News, the Press Democrat in Santa Rosa, California, the Philadelphia Daily News, and Philadelphia Weekly. She's the creator and co-editor of the award-winning Survivors Project, Telling the Truth About Life After Sexual Abuse, a book-length work of nonfiction that utilizes first-person storytelling to address the reality of healing from the effects of sexual abuse. Nina holds a master's in journalism from Temple University. Nina.
Thank you. Bala said that he wasn't going to leave you with hope, but as the last speaker, I'm feeling a lot of pressure to leave you with hope. So we're all leaving with hope. Our glasses are going to be half full. So I want to start off tonight with a pretty famous quote. I'm sure you've heard it before, from an equally famous person. Perception is reality. My dad said that many times. Every time I would ask him a question, Dad, why do people think this way or do these things? Well, perception is reality, honey. Okay, so maybe you don't know him, but this idea that our behaviors influence what others believe, it's like marketing 101, right? So it's as old as time. But the reason I'm interested in this is because as we grapple with rapidly spreading disinformation that causes confusion about who and what to trust, it's becoming more and more scary to see what others perceive as real. So last week I was at a film festival dedicated to highlighting investigative reporting documentaries. And I watched a short film called Our New President, and I could not get my dad's words of wisdom out of my head. This short film is essentially the story of Donald Trump's election told entirely through Russian propaganda. When the film first premiered, the filmmaker was quoted as saying, "We wanted to see if it was possible to make a documentary out of news without a single true statement in it." So I want to show you just a few minutes of the opening scene so you can get a feel for the kinds of stories that Russians were consuming around 2016.
Часов назад в Соединенных Штатах Америки завершились президентские выборы. Мы внимательно следили за этой кампанией. Хочу поздравить американский народ с завершением избирательного цикла Дональда Трампа с победой на этих выборах.
Владимир Путин успел поздравить Трампа с победой даже раньше Барака Обамы. Новость о том, что 45-м президентом Соединенных Штатов стал Дональд Трамп, привела Россию в восторг, вызвав аплодисменты в Госдуме.
Америка наша. И заметьте, как и Крым, она была взята абсолютно вежливым, бескровным методом. Месяц назад я поздравил господина Трампа с сегодняшней победой. Я поднимаю этот бокал российского крымского шампанского за нашу победу, господин Трамп. Либералы в панике удаляют ругательство в ваш адрес в социальных сетях, но у нас все ходы записаны, и скоро всем либералам будет Трамп-пам-пам.
Дональд Трамп. Дональд Трамп.
Дональд Трамп.
Трамп наш!
Парень из Бруклина, сложный подросток, смог сделать то, о чем, по идее, должен мечтать каждый американец, стать президентом Америки. И Америка получила свое лицо, которое очень напоминает плакат с дядюшкой Сэмом.
Трамп, как говорят компьютерщики про взлом программы, крякнул эту гниловатую американскую систему элит с первого раза, сыграл по ее правилам и стал президентом.
Ваня, так он же американец.
смотришь это видео, а я уверен, что ты это делаешь, я хочу тебя поздравить с победой.
Запи свою песню американскому президенту Трампу.
В Рязани может появиться улица имени Дональда Трампа. Рязанцы хотят переименовать улицу с недвусмысленным названием «Вторая безбожная». Название не соответствует российским ценностям, оскорбляет религиозное чувство верующих.
Российский ученый Александр Нелогов из Абакана утверждает, что новоизбранный президент США ни много ни мало потомок основателя государства российского.
Okay, you should definitely watch the rest of this film. It's only 11 minutes long. But the reason I showed you this clip is because it's important to see what can happen in the absence of a free and independent fourth estate. And that's what I want to talk to you about today: journalism, democracy, and philanthropy. I want to start off by pulling back the curtain a little bit on what we do and what our funders do, because much of philanthropy really is a mystery to everyday citizens. Some of this is by design, because in the media space, there's a strict firewall that we need to maintain. Funders of media, and I'm talking specifically about journalism here, understand that any perception of influence taints their investment. And by the way, funders and nonprofit news sites also now have their own code of ethics, which is exciting. So, Media Impact Funders is a network of funders who support media to advance issues that are critical to the public interest. And when I say public interest, I mean any issue that we all care about: health, environment, economic progress, anything. But when I say media, I mean more than just newspapers. Support for media today takes so many forms, including documentary film, mobile phone apps, advocacy campaigns, immersive technologies like VR and AR, media policy, and infrastructure. Okay, so now that I've given that context, I want to give you the gist of my talk, which is journalism is in crisis. This has had very serious consequences for our democracy, but the bright spot is that philanthropy is stepping up to address these challenges in a variety of ways. So let's start with the one that most of us are already aware of, which is journalism is struggling. Across the country, newsrooms are shrinking and closing down in the face of economic and technological challenges that have absolutely crippled the news industry. Our friends at Shorenstein, which Michael referenced earlier, recently conducted a comprehensive survey of philanthropic support for the news, and I won't reread any of the statistics that Michael provided, but I will add some interesting context that they gave us. Jobs in the U.S. steel industry declined 64% over 35 years. Jobs at U.S. newspapers declined 58% over just 15 years. So communities across the U.S. are dealing with a severe decline, and in some cases, total elimination of local news. Consumers' habits have changed significantly too, moving from a reliance on print and broadcast to online and mobile, shifting news shared by friends and peers rather than directly from original content producers. Adding to this crisis is the fact that the press is under attack in unprecedented ways. When the president repeatedly calls the press the enemy of the people, or when the administration or politicians or anyone labels news it doesn't like as fake news, this contributes to the increasing levels of doubt and mistrust in the public square. And when we talk about trust, I think it's important for us to talk about whose trust. The Poynter Institute released a survey last year examining trust in the media and found that 1 year into the Trump administration, Democrats trust the media more and Republicans trust it less. And the rhetoric that the president has used against the press has really sunk in. A large majority of Trump supporters agree with his description that the press is the enemy of the people and agree that the government should be able to block news stories it does not like. So these findings are in part related to the echo chamber conversation that Derek talked about earlier. The survey also found that 44% of people believe that the press is making up stories. So nearly half of America thinks that we're making things up. I think regardless of what side you are on, we can agree that these findings are very troubling. Trust should not be partisan. So, the state of journalism has had a lot of consequences for our democracy. When news organizations falter and when there aren't reporters in the places where they need to be, issues at the center of civic life, education, environment, health, they all receive less independent scrutiny from journalists, and citizens have less access to the information they need to engage effectively in their own communities. At the same time, misleading or false stories masquerading as news have proliferated across the ecosystem, which is a word we like to use in philanthropy, undermining public trust in reliable journalism, exploiting the information vacuum left by shrinking news operations, and disrupting civic dialogue. And going back to Michael's talk, the Ellerman Foundation should absolutely consider, or absolutely continue funding public discourse initiatives. We need more conservative voices in the ecosystem. So, all that being said, this isn't, like I said before, this is going to be about hope. This isn't a doom and gloom presentation. There is a huge bright spot, and that is that philanthropy is providing support for a free press at a critical moment in our nation's history. See, look, there's sons. I don't have cat names, but I have sons. So the field of media and philanthropy is constantly growing. Worldwide, foundations have invested more than $11 billion in media since 2009. That support comes in a variety of ways, way too many to name here, but I want to call out a few examples of how funders are finding solutions. And we'll start with how they're combating misinformation because it's so relevant to tonight's discussion. Many in philanthropy are trying to understand how to mitigate the effects of misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. Notice how I'm taking the time to call all of these out individually and instead of using this catch-all term fake news, which I find problematic and I want to talk to Catherine about it afterward. Philanthropic initiatives seek to intervene at one of 3 points on the information system: the production of news, the distribution of news, and the consumption of news. Most philanthropic initiatives are aimed at the production of news, as in more and better quality journalism, or the consumption of news, such as bolstering fact-checking operations and efforts to promote media literacy. Less is known about the role that online platforms play in distributing information, probably because we're talking about commercial platforms that do not need to open their doors to us. Hopefully that changes soon, because Facebook recently announced that it would give a committee of scholars funded by the Hewlett Foundation and others in philanthropy access to some of its proprietary data, because we need to understand how it works. Strengthening local news. This is the favorite part of my talk, because I believe so strongly and fiercely in local news. As important as these and other national funding efforts are, local and regional funders have a unique capacity to complement these efforts by supporting the creation of media that engages local communities and elevates local voices. This connection that we have is lost. So one way in which funders are trying to bolster local news is Newsmatch. It's an innovative matching gift campaign that raises money for nonprofit newsrooms around the country. It has engaged tens of thousands of new donors to nonprofit journalism, including place-based and community foundations who can really make a difference on the local level. Funders are finding other innovative strategies to help support local reporting, and I'll share with you one of my favorite examples. In Flint, Michigan, reports of unsafe drinking water had been ignored for years. The ACLU of Michigan, which was at the forefront of the effort to bring these issues to light but could not for some reason, was banging its head against the wall until the Ford Foundation responded with a strategy that had never been used before. Ford funded the hiring of an investigative reporter at the ACLU, the first time a foundation grant was ever directed to the hiring of such a journalistic position at a nonprofit. That foundation-funded reporter, Kurt Guyette, was the journalist who broke the story and uncovered the national scandal. So what I want you to walk away with tonight is that Quality media and journalism does make a difference no matter what political party you are affiliated with, and it can have a positive impact on public debate. I want to share one last clip. It's an audio clip, and it's of a little girl who was separated by her parents at the border this past summer. This is audio obtained by ProPublica, a a Pulitzer Prize-winning nonprofit investigative reporting outlet supported by a number of philanthropies, some of which I've named tonight. This clip is going to be very difficult to hear, but it's important for us to hear it, because this clip is not perception, this is reality. I've listened to this clip many times, and it does not get any easier, especially when you see those two comments at the end. But, you know, it's journalism like this that provides a real face to contentious policy debates. And now more than ever, funders across the country are repositioning quality journalism as a central pillar of American democracy. Because the role of journalism has never been so uncertain, nor so deeply vital. Thank you.